Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Abhineet Shukla and with me is VC Pramod, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Boxer MC Maricom, shuttler PV Sindhu, paddler Manika Batra and Indian rowing team shine on day 2 at the Tokyo Olympics. Tunisian teenager Ahmed Hafnaoui sends shockwaves in the swimming world with a stunning victory in the men's 400-meter freestyle final. Indian Embassy in Afghanistan calls upon Indian nationals living in the country to exercise utmost vigilance and caution. U.S. Deputy Secretary Wendy Sherman on a 2-day visit to China. World leaders offer condolences as round-the-clock rescue efforts continue in flood-affected regions of Maharashtra, Karnataka and Goa. Kakatiya Rudreshwara Temple becomes India's 39th entrant to UNESCO's World Heritage Site. And in cricket, Sri Lanka chased a target of 165 runs against India in the first T20 International of the 3-match series in Colombo. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also to help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. On day 2 at the Tokyo Olympics, India's ace shuttler PV Sindhu won her women's singles first round match against Israel's Ksenia Polikarpova 21-7, 21-10. Elsewhere, paddler Manika Batra registered a terrific comeback 4-3 win against Margarita Pesotska of Ukraine in the second round of the women's singles table tennis event. Batra came back from 2 games down to win the second round clash. Indian boxer MC Maricom entered the round of 16 defeating Dominica's Hernandez Garcia Miguelina 4-1 in the women's flyweight category. In rowing, the duo of Arvind Singh and Arjun Lal Jat qualified for the semi-finals of the lightweight men's double sculls event. The Indian pair finished third in repechage 2 and sealed their place for the semi-finals. However, India also witnessed disappointments in several quarters. Indian men's hockey team was not able to carry their winning momentum as the Manpreet Singh-led side lost to Australia 1-7 in their second Group A game at the ongoing Tokyo Olympics. India will next take on Spain on Tuesday. India boxer Manish Kaushik bowed out of the men's lightweight 63 kg category event after losing to Great Britain's Luke McCormack 1-4 in the round of 32. In shooting, Angadveer Singh Bajwa missed 2 targets out of 75 to be placed 11th on countback in men's skeet and has a top 6 finals spot well in sight. Competing at the Osaka shooting range, Angad had scores of 25, 24, 24 in the first 3 series and will come back tomorrow to shoot the final 2 series in qualifying. Compatriot Mehraj Ahmad Khan shot 71 to be placed 25th out of the 30 shooters in the fray. Earlier today, Divyant Singh Pawar and Deepak Kumar crashed out of the 10-meter air rifle men qualification event. In table tennis, Sathi Gyanasekaran of India lost to Hong Kong's Lam Siu Hang by 4-3 in the men's single event. Sathi was 3-1 up after 4 sets, but the lower-ranked Hong Kong mounted a comeback to win the next 3 consecutive sets. In tennis, India's women's pair of Sania Mirza and Ankita Raina lost their first-round match against Ukraine's Kishanok twins Nadia and Lyudmila 6-0, 6-7. Pranati Nayak, India's only gymnast in Olympics, also failed to qualify in women's all-around qualification in the artistic gymnastic event.
Tokyo native Horigome Yuto won the first ever Olympic skateboarding event. After a grueling 7 rounds, the Japanese skateboarder took the title in style with a score of 37.18 at the Ariake Urban Sports Park. 4-time world champion and pre-event favorite Nyjah Huston of the USA fell repeatedly while trying to land tricks and finished the final 7th. Surfing is one of the 5 additional sports proposed by the Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee to bring more youthful and vibrant events and culture into the Olympic program. Shortboards will be used at the Tokyo 2020 Games, where 20 men and 20 women will compete in separate competitions. A panel of 5 judges will score each ride based on the judging criteria. The criteria reflects the definition of good surfing and are based upon the key elements of commitment and degree in difficulty, innovative and progressive maneuvers, combinations of major maneuvers, variety of maneuvers, and speed, power and flow. Tunisia's Ahmed Hafnioui shocked the swimming world with a stunning victory in the men's 400 meters freestyle final. The 18-year-old, who was just 3 years ago finished 8th in the same event at the 2018 Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires, beat off the challenge of Australia's Jack McCollin and USA's Kieran Smith to win gold. It was plain sailing for home favourite Naomi Osaka in the first round of the women's singles tennis at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. Having lifting the Olympic cauldron on Friday night, the Japanese beat China's Zheng Sasai 6-1-6-4 on Sunday in her first match in almost 2 months. Elsewhere, Takato Naohisa became host Japan's first gold medalist at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 after winning by Ippon over Hyang Huiying of Chinese Taipei in the judo men's 60 kg contest. In another first, 2 siblings became the first to win gold on the same day in any individual sport in Olympic history. Hifumi Abe has won Japan's 3rd judo gold medal at its home Olympics, beating Georgia's Vaza Margavelashvili. He joins his younger sibling Uta, who won gold on the same day, making them the first ever brother and sister to do so. Australia has won its first gold medal of the Olympic Games in Tokyo in the women's 4x100 meters freestyle relay in a new world record. The team of Bronte Campbell, her elder sister Kate, Emma McKeown and Meg Harris finished in a time of 3:29.69. Canada claimed the silver medal, with the USA winning bronze.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts. The Indian Embassy in Afghanistan has issued a security advisory for Indian nationals living in the country. The embassy has asked Indians staying, visiting and working in Afghanistan to exercise utmost vigilance and caution with regard to security at work, residence and also during their movement to workplaces. They have also been asked to avoid all non-essential travel as the security situation in Afghanistan remains dangerous in several provinces. They have been asked to avoid movements, especially during peak commuting hours. The embassy also said that travelling outside the main cities should be avoided. It further said that while travelling on roads, distance should be maintained from possible targets like military convoys, vehicles of government ministries and officers, high-ranking officials and law enforcement agencies. Visiting crowded markets, shopping complexes, mandis, restaurants and other public places must also be avoided. All Indian nationals arriving in Afghanistan have been advised to register with the embassy or consulates. Indian companies operating in Afghanistan have been advised to make special security arrangements for Indian employees deployed at project sites. U.S. Deputy Secretary Wendy Sherman is on a 2-day visit to China starting Sunday. Ahead of her visit, Ms. Sherman, in a tweet, extended the United States' heartfelt condolences to those who have lost loved ones in the severe floods in Henan province. Briefing the media on Saturday, the U.S. State Department said that the Deputy Secretary is going to be travelling to Tianjin for discussions with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Vice Foreign Minister Xi Feng. The U.S. official reiterated Secretary Blinken's stance that the U.S. relationship with China will be collaborative where it can be competitive, where it should be, and adversarial where it must be. They added that the U.S. will continue to hold China accountable for Beijing's effort to erode democracy in Hong Kong, human rights abuses in Xinjiang and its use of forced labor and its malicious cyber activities.
More than 43 crore 31 lakh COVID vaccine doses have been administered in India so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. COVID-19 recovery rate has reached 97.36% with around 40,000 patients recovering in the last 24 hours. Till now, more than 3 crore 5 lakh people have recovered from COVID-19. India's Health Ministry on Sunday organized a communication awareness workshop with community radio stations from 16 states in partnership with the UNICEF. The thematic session highlighted the need to create meaningful awareness campaigns about COVID-appropriate behavior and bust myths surrounding COVID vaccines. Speaking on the occasion, Joint Secretary in the Health Ministry Love Agarwal acknowledged the contribution of community radio stations in supporting the world's largest vaccination drive.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on the developments in Afghanistan as the 31st August deadline for the US troops' withdrawal approaches. In conversation are Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, when we see the violence which has erupted in the last few weeks in Afghanistan, we also see the Taliban gaining ground according to a lot of media reports that are coming in. How do you assess the situation regionally and also at a global level?
So I think first, if you look at the United States, of course, it is reputationally, it is a huge loss as far as the United States is concerned, and it is not very clear whether Mr. Biden should have gone along this path. The Afghans, of course, are not at all happy that with such alacrity, the US forces and the NATO forces are moving out. I think by the end of July, already more than 90-95% of all the forces would be out. And this is without imposing any condition on Taliban as far as lessening of violence or introducing ceasefire, etc. are concerned. The second aspect is we have seen even President George W. Bush, who had actually launched the attack in October of 2001. He has said that the withdrawal of the American forces is a big mistake. The former U.S. commander in Afghanistan, David Petraeus, has also said it is a big mistake. Because one of the conditions also in the February 2020 agreement was that Taliban would sever all its links with Al-Qaeda and with the other terrorist forces. And it has come out very clearly that Taliban has not done that, which means that Afghanistan could once again become a staging ground for terrorist acts against the United States and against the European Union. Now, if you look at Pakistan, of course, Pakistan has been very strongly supportive of the Taliban. And in fact, that has been if the support from Pakistan had not been forthcoming, the Afghan government has gone so far as to say that the Taliban would not have lasted more than a few days. So it is basically what the strategy of Pakistan has been, that it is running with the hare and hunting with the hound. So whenever the Americans would apply pressure on Pakistan to act against the terrorists, then Pakistan would apprehend some terrorists and hand them over to America. But you would recall the tweet that President Donald Trump on the 1st of January 2018, he had put out, in which he had said that, we have paid $34 billion as coalition support fund to Pakistan for the last, since 2001. And Pakistan has been fooling all the leaders of America, and it has been providing safe havens and supporting the terrorists whom America wants. So Pakistan has been, as always, following a very hypocritically and a double-faced strategy. But I think it is, of course, it might be in a very victorious mood. It might be in a very triumphalist mood right now. But there is going to be a blowback. And we have started seeing that also. I'm sure these attacks on the Chinese engineers and, against the Pakistani soldiers, in which 14 of them were killed very recently, I'm sure that can be linked to whatever is happening in Afghanistan now. Of course, there are elements like Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Lashkar Jhangvi, and some of the others who are also fighting along with the Taliban in Afghanistan. But I'm sure that there is going to be a much more severe blowback as far as Pakistan is concerned. Similarly, if very briefly I were to say China is looking at opportunities, but I think its hopes would be quite, I don't think it would be so easy to realize its ambitions and its aspirations in Afghanistan. And the reason why I say this is that even during the time of peace, it is China has not been able to put in any investment, although it has had that contract for the copper mines in Ainak for quite some time, but it has not been able to do that. And although China is keen that it should be able to extend its BRI into Afghanistan and also expand the China-Pakistan economic corridor into Afghanistan. But I think this is, in my view, easier said than done. I recognize that the Taliban has made this commitment and said that China is our friend, China should invest in our country, and we are not going to do anything as far as not interfere as far as the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang are concerned. But I think that this is a statement, in my view, which can not be taken at face value because Taliban itself, in my view, is not a homogeneous or a monolithic organization. And the people who are fighting on the ground are very, very different from the people who are in Doha, who are conducting negotiations and who are going around to different capitals and telling them that Taliban is going to be very reasonable. The last comment here I will make, and then I pass the floor to you for further questions, Simran, is that this is the Taliban has been making these promises to many countries, but its performance on the ground leaves a lot to be desired. What it has tried to sell to the different countries, that is why they have come on the bandwagon of Taliban, is that it is Taliban 2.0, which is a much more sober, which is very reformed, it's a gentler form. It is not what Taliban was in 1996. But I think looking at their actions, we make out that it appears to be a repeat exactly of what was happening there. You know, their statements and comments that girls above 15 years and widows below 45 years should be handed over to them so that they can take them to Waziristan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa so that they can be married off to the Taliban fighters, or also actions taken by them to chop off the hands of people who have committed any robbery, or there are that women cannot go out to government offices and work, that men cannot wear suits and cannot be clean shaven. So I think these are indications that we are going back to what prevailed between 1996 to 2001. So there is a lot of uncertainty and of course there is a great deal of anxiety and worry in the region as well as in other countries, including the United States and Europe. Simran.
Mr. Sajjanhar, as you pointed out about the U.S. and President Joe Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan, and a lot of people have been critical. People have said that this is a hasty decision and a decision that the U.S. might regret. But playing the devil's advocate, the United States under President Joe Biden has also said that they feel that Afghanistan is no longer a priority for them and they would like to focus more on issues like China. They haven't said it, but this is the message that we have coming out of Washington, D.C. Do you believe that this is the correct message that is being sent out, or do you think that this actually is a hasty decision and the U.S. troops should have stayed in Afghanistan for a little longer?
You know, in my view, it is definitely a hasty decision, Simran, because, Mr. Trump signed the agreement last February with the Taliban because he was in a tearing hurry because he had to produce this agreement for his elections. He wanted to go to his constituency and tell them that he had promised that he'll bring the troops back, and he was doing so. So he had certain electoral compulsions to do so. As far as Mr. Biden is concerned, there were no compulsions. And for him to say that we are going to pack up and go out by the 20th anniversary of 9/11 without any preconditions on the Taliban, I think that was really handing over the whole of the country on a platter and providing a blank check to the Taliban, saying that, we are leaving in any case. And the manner, in which they left the Bagram Air Base, where they had been stationed for the last 20 years or so, on the night in a surreptitious manner of 2nd of July, I think this is really leaving in ignominy. And of course, the American forces should have gone, because any foreign troops to be outside their own country fighting a war which they are finding cannot be won. They have to leave. 20 years is a long time, and they call it a never-ending war and a forever war. They had to leave. But they should have stayed for few months or even a year more to ensure that the dialogue, that the negotiations between the Taliban and the High Council for National Reconciliation, which is chaired by Dr. Abdullah, that they are going somewhere and that there is some semblance of peace and security and sort of a ceasefire, and violence levels have come down. But what Mr. Biden has done is just cut and run. So this, I think, in my view, was hasty, and even the countries which did not want America to be there, like Russia and China, even they said that America is leaving in a very hasty and an irresponsible manner. So it could have been done differently, which would have been better for the United States. Coming to China, it is leaving this area wide open for China and Russia to come in. So it is creating a vacuum here, which will be filled by China. So, if the idea is that, you have to confront China, you have to push back against China, this is exactly the opposite, is going to have exactly the opposite impact rather than being able to control China.
Mr. Sajjanhar, very briefly, do you think this places Pakistan in a stronger position now regionally?
As I said, there are very many factions within the Taliban. The TTP is fighting with the Taliban, but it is dead opposed to Pakistan. So I think in the short term, there might be some gains. But in the medium and the long term, I think Pakistan will have to pay a very heavy price for whatever it has done in terms of supporting the Taliban, making it such a violent organization and bringing it back to a semblance of power and authority in Kabul. Simran.
With these comments, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rescue efforts are on round the clock with the Army, Navy and Air Force in the flood-affected regions of Maharashtra, Karnataka and Goa. The Defence Forces are also providing food, water and medical relief to the people in flood-affected areas. More rescue teams and aircraft are on standby for deployment. In Karnataka, 7 relief teams were mobilized by the Indian Navy with naval divers, rubber Gemini boats, life jackets and medical equipment. Naval Seeking, Advanced Light Helicopters and Indian Air Force Mi-17 helicopters conducted multiple sorties and rescued people marooned due to sudden and sharp rise in the water levels. Meanwhile, in Maharashtra, the situation in various parts of the state is gradually limping back to normalcy. Meanwhile, Maldivian Foreign Minister and President-elect of the 76th UN General Assembly, Mr. Abdullah Shahid, said that their thoughts and prayers go to the government and people of India over the devastation being caused by heavy monsoon rain and landslides in western India. In a tweet, he sent condolences to those affected and families who lost loved ones and prayed for successful rescue efforts. Bangladesh Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen has expressed his deep condolences over the loss of lives due to landslides caused by rains and floods in Maharashtra. In a message, the Minister of External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar, he extended his support to India in every possible manner. He said that Bangladesh and India need to work together on the issue of climate change and to cope with the natural disasters. Dr. Momen sent prayers for peace of diseased souls, recovery of injured persons and strength for bereaved families so that they can bear the irreparable loss. Elsewhere, the Afghan Foreign Ministry in a statement said that while sharing the grief of the families of the victims with the government and the people of India, it wishes a swift and full recovery to all those injured.
In cricket, chasing a target of 165, Sri Lanka were 83 at the loss of 3 wickets in 12 overs against India in the first T20 International of the 3-match series at R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo when reports last came in. Earlier, Sri Lanka won the toss and opted to bowl. India is going into the T20 series on back of a 2-1 win in the ODI series.
The Kakatiya Rudreshwara temple, famous for the Ramappa temple, was inscribed to the World Heritage List at the 44th session of the World Heritage Committee. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a tweet urged people to visit the temple complex and experience its grandeur firsthand. A report.
The Rudreshwara or Ramappa temple is situated 65 kilometers from Warangal at Palampet. Interestingly, the temple is named after its head sculptor Ramappa rather than the presiding deity Ramalingeshwara, which is a unique aspect of this temple. The temple of Ramappa was built on behalf of the king Kakati Ganapati Deva by his chief commander Rudra Samani. The temple is often described as the brightest star in the galaxy of medieval temples of the Deccan. With intricate carvings adorning the walls, pillars and ceilings, it is a repository of Kakatiyan creative genius. The temple is a Shivalaya and stands majestically on a 6 feet high star-shaped platform. The hall in front of the sanctum has numerous carved pillars that have been positioned to create an effect that combines light and space wonderfully. The exquisitely chiseled walls and ceiling are testimony to the genius of the Kakatiyan sculptors and the Kakatiyan Empire. The captivating friezes of dance postures is said to have provided the inspiration for the celebrated work Nritya Ratnavali by Jayappa Senani. The Ramappa temple is the best example of the love of art, music and dance as patronized by the Kakatiyas. The temple is situated in a valley and is built with bricks so light that they can float on water and has withstood many wars, invasions and natural calamities. For its scientific, architectural and cultural significance, the Ramappa temple is rightly hailed as the crown jewel in Kakatiya architecture. This is Pawan for World News AIR.
Now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Washington Post writes, US men's basketball team loses its Olympic opener to France as its struggles continue. Wall Street Journal reports a boom in the housing market in Phoenix as workers in inspective cities move to the region. The Guardian reports Anthony Fauci says health officials considering mask guidance revision for vaccinated. Sydney Morning Herald reports that Australia is facing shortages of a rheumatoid arthritis drug that has been used to treat COVID-19 overseas. Himalayan Times writes that prohibitory order prolonged by 10 more days in Kathmandu Valley.
A quick look at the headlines once again. Boxer MC Mary Kom, shuttler PV Sindhu, paddler Manika Batra and Indian rowing team shine on day 2 at the Tokyo Olympics. Tunisian teenager Ahmed Hafnaoui sends shockwaves in the swimming world with a stunning victory in the men's 400-meter freestyle final. Indian embassy in Afghanistan calls upon Indian nationals living in the country to exercise utmost vigilance and caution. US Deputy Secretary Wendy Sherman on a 2-day visit to China. World leaders offer condolences as round-the-clock rescue efforts continue in flood-affected regions of Maharashtra, Karnataka and Goa. Kakatiya Rudreshwara temple becomes India's 39th entrant to UNESCO's World Heritage List. And in cricket, Sri Lanka chased a target of 165 runs against India in the first T20 International of the 3-match series in Colombo. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Iraq. And with that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.